Welcome back. I'm Ray with Adventure Freaks, and if you're watching travel drama online, seeing people getting scammed in Bali or kicked off flights in Dubai, you've probably asked yourself the same question I hear all the time. Where can you actually go that won't turn into a nightmare? Because here's what nobody talks about in those viral hotel meltdown videos. The countries where things go wrong and the countries where people are quietly thriving are not the same places. Today, I'm breaking down 5 countries to live and work in 2026 where the systems actually work, where foreigners aren't getting played, and where you can build a real life without constantly looking over your shoulder. And stick around until the end, because I'm sharing the one country where I've seen the most outrageous traveled tea lately, but it's also where some of the smartest expats I know are making serious money right now. Before we jump in, do me a favor. If you're the type who watches these videos on your TV or tablet and actually sticks around for the full breakdown, hit that subscribe and like button. It tells YouTube you want more real talk and fewer clickbait compilations. All right, let's get into it.
Number 5. Portugal. Portugal has become the darling of the digital nomad crowd over the last few years, and honestly, some of that hype is deserved. But what most people don't realize is that Portugal isn't just for 20-somethings with laptops and coffee shops. It's actually one of the most foreigner-friendly countries in Europe for people who want stability, affordability compared to the rest of Western Europe, and a government that has actively created pathways for foreign workers and retirees. Let's talk visas first, because this is where Portugal separates itself. They have multiple visa options depending on your situation. There's the D7 visa, which is designed for retirees or people with passive income. You're not required to work locally. You just need to prove you can support yourself. And the income threshold is surprisingly reasonable, usually around 1,200 to 1,500 euros per month. Then there's the digital nomad visa, which launched recently and allows remote workers to live there legally while working for companies outside Portugal. But here's where it gets interesting for people watching travel drama. Portugal has something called the NHR program, the Non-Habitual Resident Tax Program, which has been a massive draw for years. Now, the rules have changed recently, and new applicants face different conditions, but the basic idea is still there. Portugal wants foreign money coming in, and they've built systems to make that happen. Now let's talk about what life actually looks like there. Lisbon and Porto get all the attention, but they're also where you'll see the highest costs and the most tourists. If you want the Portugal that locals talk about, you're looking at places like Braga, Coimbra, or even the Algarve outside of peak season. These are cities where rent is affordable, the pace is slower, and you're not competing with Airbnb pricing. The culture is relaxed. Portuguese people are generally welcoming to foreigners, especially if you make even a small effort with the language. And this is important because one thing I've noticed in all those travel scam videos is that the countries where expats get burned the most are the ones where they never bothered to integrate. Portugal rewards effort. You don't need to be fluent, but learning basic Portuguese goes a long way. On the downside, the job market for English-only speakers is limited unless you're in tech, tourism, or teaching. Salaries are lower than Northern Europe or North America, but the cost of living balances that out for a lot of people. And if you're working remotely or living off savings or retirement income, Portugal offers a quality of life that punches way above its price point. So why is Portugal number 5? Because it's one of the few European countries that actually wants you there and has made it relatively easy to make it happen.
Number 4. Malaysia. Now, if you've been watching Travel Tea online, you've definitely seen the drama coming out of Southeast Asia. Scams in Thailand, visa crackdowns in Bali, tourists getting deported from Vietnam. It's a mess. But Malaysia has quietly stayed out of the chaos, and there's a reason for that. The country has one of the most organized and transparent systems for foreign residents in the region. Let's start with the Malaysia My Second Home program, better known as MM2H. This is a long-term residency visa that's been around for years. You apply, meet the financial requirements, which vary depending on your age, and you get a renewable visa that allows you to live in Malaysia for up to 10 years at a time.
You're not required to work locally, and you can bring dependents. The requirements were tightened a few years ago, so it's not as accessible as it used to be, but it's still one of the most legitimate long-term visa programs in Asia. For people who do want to work, Malaysia has a growing job market, particularly in Kuala Lumpur and Penang. There's demand in tech, finance, education, and roles tied to international companies operating in Southeast Asia. And unlike some neighboring countries, Malaysia has a structured work permit system. If a company hires you, they sponsor your visa. It's not under the table, it's not a gray area, it's legal and transparent. Now let's talk lifestyle, because this is where Malaysia really shines. The cost of living is low. You can rent a modern apartment in Kuala Lumpur for a fraction of what you'd pay in a comparable city in Europe or North America. Healthcare is excellent and affordable. There are international hospitals where you can see English-speaking doctors without appointments and pay out of pocket for less than a copay in the US. Malaysia is also incredibly diverse. You've got Malay, Chinese, and Indian communities, which means the food scene is unmatched. And English is widely spoken, especially in cities, so you're not dealing with a major language barrier in daily life. The downside? It's hot and humid year-round. If you're not a tropical climate person, that's going to wear on you. And the expat community is strong. Malaysia doesn't have the same level of international hype as Thailand or Portugal, so it flies under the radar for a lot of people. But here's why it made my list. Malaysia is stable, it's organized, it's affordable, and in a region where visa rules are constantly changing and people are getting caught up in crackdowns, Malaysia remains one of the safest bets.
Number 3, Mexico. I know what you're thinking. Mexico? With all the news coverage and the travel warnings? But here's the reality. Mexico is one of the largest expat destinations in the world, and it's not because people are ignoring the risks. It's because millions of foreigners have learned how to live there safely, affordably, and legally. Let's address the elephant in the room first. Yes, there are areas in Mexico with safety concerns, but the places where expats actually live, cities like Mérida, San Miguel de Allende, Playa del Carmen, Puerto Vallarta, and parts of Mexico City are not the same places you're seeing in cartel documentaries. These are established expat hubs with active communities, reliable infrastructure, and day-to-day life that feels completely normal. Now, let's talk visas. Mexico has a temporary resident visa that's shockingly easy to get compared to most countries. You can qualify based on income, savings, or even property ownership. The income requirement is low, around $2,000 to $3,000 USD per month, depending on the consulate. And once you're approved, you get a visa that's renewable for up to 4 years. After 4 years, you can apply for permanent residency. And here's the kicker. Mexico doesn't require you to work locally. You can live there on a retirement income, remote work, or savings. And if you do want to work, there are opportunities in teaching, real estate, tourism, and roles tied to the growing number of U.S. companies setting up operations in Mexico. The cost of living is one of the biggest draws. You can rent in a safe, walkable neighborhood for $600 to $1,000 a month. Healthcare is affordable and high quality, especially in private hospitals. And because Mexico is so close to the U.S., you're not cut off. You can fly back for emergencies, holidays, or even just to stock up on things you miss. The culture is warm. Mexicans, in my experience, are some of the most welcoming people you'll meet, especially in areas that are used to expats. And if you make an effort to learn Spanish, you'll find the doors open quickly. So why number 3? Because Mexico offers a combination of accessibility, affordability, and proximity that almost no other country can match. And for people who've been watching influencers complain about visa runs in Thailand, Mexico's legal pathways look pretty appealing. Number 2, Spain. Spain has always been a dream destination, but in 2026, it's also becoming one of the most practical. The Spanish government has recently rolled out new visa options aimed directly at remote workers and digital nomads, and that's on top of existing pathways like the non-lucrative visa, which has been popular for years. The non-lucrative visa is designed for people who can support themselves without working in Spain.
You prove you have sufficient income or savings, around 2,000 to 2,500 euros per month, and you get a renewable visa. It's popular with retirees and remote workers who are employed outside of Spain. But the new digital nomad visa is where things get interesting. Spain is actively courting remote workers, and the visa allows you to live there legally while working for a foreign company or running your own business. You're not competing in the local job market. You're bringing income in from outside, and Spain is fine with that. Now, let's talk about life in Spain. The lifestyle is slower. Meals are longer. There's a focus on time with family and friends, and work is not the center of everything. For people coming from the US, that shift can be jarring at first, but it's also one of the biggest reasons people fall in love with the place. Spain is diverse. You've got the beaches of Valencia and the Costa del Sol, the culture and energy of Madrid and Barcelona, and quieter, more affordable cities like Seville, Granada, and Alicante. Each region has its own identity, and you're not locked into one type of experience. The cost of living is manageable, especially outside the major tourist zones. You can rent a decent apartment in a mid-sized Spanish city for 700 to 1,000 euros a month. Healthcare is excellent, and once you're a legal resident, you have access to the public system. The downside? Bureaucracy. Spain is notorious for slow-moving paperwork, and getting your residency card or setting up basics like a bank account can test your patience. But once you're through the initial setup, life smooths out. So why is Spain number 2? Because it combines European quality of life, rich culture, great weather, and new legal pathways that make it easier than ever to actually get in and stay.
And the number 1 country on my list for 2026 is the United Arab Emirates. Now, I know this is going to be controversial, especially with some of the horror stories that have come out of Dubai recently. Influencers getting arrested for bikini photos, workers getting scammed by employers, tourists getting stuck in legal nightmares over deaths. But here's what I want you to understand. The UAE is not for everyone. But for people who know how to move in that system, it remains one of the highest-earning, most tax-efficient, and fastest-growing job markets in the world. Let me be clear. The UAE operates differently than Western countries. The laws are stricter, the culture is more conservative in some areas, and the employment system is tied to sponsorship, which means your visa is connected to your job. If you lose your job, you lose your visa. That's real, and it's a risk you need to understand going in. But here's the other side. The UAE, particularly Dubai and Abu Dhabi, is built on expat labor. The majority of people living there are foreigners. The entire system is designed around hiring internationally, and companies are constantly recruiting from abroad. The demand is strong in sectors like sales, hospitality, real estate, finance, aviation, healthcare, education, and tech, and the salaries are competitive, often higher than what you'd earn in the same role in Europe or North America. On top of that, there's no income tax, which means your take-home pay is significantly higher. The lifestyle is modern, fast-paced, and heavily focused on work and ambition. It's not a place to slow down. It's a place to build momentum. The infrastructure is world-class. It's clean, safe, and efficient. You've got access to international airports, luxury amenities, and a level of convenience that's hard to match. Now, the cost of living is high, especially in Dubai. Rent is expensive, dining out adds up quickly, but many employers offer housing allowances or provide accommodation, which helps offset that. And here's the part that ties in to the travel drama you've been watching. Yes, there are scams. Yes, there are bad employers. Yes, tourists and workers get caught up in situations they didn't see coming. But the people I know who've thrived in the UAE are the ones who did their research, understood the laws, negotiated their contracts carefully, and didn't assume things would work the way they do back home. The UAE rewards preparation. If you go in blind, you can get burned. But if you go in informed, it's one of the few places left where you can move abroad, earn well, save aggressively, and set yourself up for the next chapter of your life. So there you have it. 5 countries where you can live and work in 2026 without turning your life into a travel disaster TikTok. Portugal for stability and European access, Malaysia for affordability and organization, Mexico for proximity and ease, Spain for lifestyle and new visa options, and the UAE for income potential and speed.